Hey y'all, who dat and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak. This is Inside Black and Gold, a solo edition. Recording this one, we are not live. It's been a while since we've done a non-live episode that was recorded, so I'm still trying to work my way through it. But there's a lot to talk about. The news that's on everybody's mind. Luke Fortner. No, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. But there is an irony in the fact that Colin Saunders was playing Fortnite when they traded for Luke Fortner. Either way, we don't need to get into that. We've already talked about that on the pod. But Devaughn Vele, wide receiver from the Broncos. Did the Saints overpay? Did Sean Payton get one over on Mickey Loomis? Did he fleece him? That's the word everyone likes to use. He got fleeced. Is this just another situation where the Saints did not adequately plan and paid more than they needed to? Probably. But we'll dive into it. We got a lot of sound. We're going to hear from Sean Payton. He had some interesting comments about the trade itself and how it developed. We're going to hear from Kellen Moore on what he thinks of the player, why the Saints did want to maybe overpay to bring him in. Also hear from a Broncos reporter on what he knows about Devaughn Vele ahead of that preseason matchup with the Broncos. That's going to be the first segment. Second segment, we're going to get into what's the latest on the quarterback battle, where we are at with it, how we should view this final game. Is it really still going on? Are they really still competing? We're going to talk about that. Then in the final segment, just kind of a 3 points item on the preseason game. Who's got the most on the line? Who's going to play? What do we want to see? All that good stuff and more. Again, Inside Black and Gold. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Otherwise, we'll be right back. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. I am Jeff Nowak, coming at you solo to talk about a name that you may have heard or may have not heard. I don't know. A lot of people probably don't know or didn't know of Devaughn Vele before the news broke that the Saints were trading for him and trading a 4th and a 7th round pick for a second-year wide receiver who is 27 years old. That's a lot of years. You know, I mean, it's not in any other circumstance, but it is in the NFL. What I'll say about that, he had a 2-year Mormon mission. So I would feel a little worse about it if it was a situation, honestly, kind of like Tyler Shough, because a wide receiver is a position that I do worry about tread on the tires a little bit more. And like, so for example, if you had spent 7 years in college as a wide receiver and then you're coming into the NFL at 25, 26, the tread on the tires is going to match the age. In this case, I think the tread on the tires is a little better than you'd expect for a 27-year-old because he spent 2 years in Samoa, doing the whole Mormon mission thing, so it is what it is. I think by this point, we should all be aware that, the Mormon players coming a little later, look at Taysom Hill, right? He's like 34. But I don't think that the age is really worth talking about in this. It's okay. Was it worth a 4th and a 7th rounder to trade for a wide receiver? And here's the thing. Yeah, probably. Did they overpay? Yeah, probably. Did they need a big-bodied wide receiver desperately? Absolutely. I mean, if you've listened to this podcast, we've talked about it. Everyone's been talking about it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I identified something about this Saints team that no one else could see. Everyone who watched this team would be like, man, they got a lot of little fast guys. They got a lot of point guards. They don't get a lot of power forwards in this basketball team. What's going on? And so they went out and they got a big-bodied wide receiver. He's 6'5", 210, and he plays big. And I think that's what I like about him is he plays big. He uses his body well. He's got decent speed. He's got like a 4.47 40 time, but obviously not a burner. But for a guy his size, that's decent speed. But I just think when you look at it, you say a 4th round pick, I just think a lot of people fall in love with the theoretical value of a draft pick. And they forget that, like, you miss on picks. You miss on picks all the time. And that range of the draft, you miss on picks a lot more than you hit on them, right? You know what? You look at, okay, everyone likes to think about the huge draft successes, right? People want to talk about the Amon-Ra St. Browns, and that's fantastic. For every one Amon-Ra St. Brown, you end up with 3 or 4 Antonio Gandy Goldens. And no disrespect on the AGG name, but he's just kind of my placeholder for a guy that was good in college, did basically nothing in the NFL, right? He's a 4th round pick. You're taking a flyer on him. It doesn't work out. He's out of the league in 2 years. Like, that's the reality of what you're getting a lot of times in the 4th round on day 3 in general. So to me, if you can take a 4th round pick and turn that into a player that has produced at the NFL level, we're talking about 41 catches, 475 yards, 3 touchdowns. I've seen people scoff at that. I'm going to sit here and tell you, like, as far as rookie wide receivers are concerned, those are really good numbers. Just look at the 4th round picks from last year and find me a guy who has more numbers. Look at the 3rd round picks from last year and find me a guy that has higher numbers. I mean, even a Keon Coleman from last year, he had like 29 catches. He had a really good season, but he had 29 catches. Ladd McConkey is the unicorn. 80 catches, 1,000 yards, whatever. But like, those are 2nd round picks. And so when you talk about a guy who was drafted in the 7th round, and why are you trading a 4th rounder and a 2027 7th rounder to get him? It's because when he was out there on the field as a rookie, it became clear pretty quickly that he was producing at a rate a lot closer to a day 2 pick than a 7th round pick. So you don't just get to say, "Hey, well, you drafted him in 7th round." So I mean, if I go out there and I like to collect cards, right? If I go out there and I find a card at a great discount, am I going to sell it at a discount just because I bought it at a discount? Or am I going to sell it for its value and pocket some extra money, right? I'm going to do that every time. That doesn't mean that the card is worse. It means that a lot of people misidentified the value of that card, and I stood to gain from it. The Broncos are in that case now. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's going to be a great player. I'm just going to sit here and tell you that the success or failure of this trade is going to be based on one thing. It's not going to be based on whether you paid above market or below market to get it. It's going to be based on what he does in a Saints uniform. And that's why it's impossible to evaluate this trade right now. It's impossible to know, well, the Saints did well, the Saints didn't do well. There are red flags, like we talked about. You have the age. He's 27 years old. He's been dealing with kind of a knee issue. Sean Payton said it's more of a maintenance thing, and he's been missing days in camp because there's really not a lot of downtime in camp. So in order to get a day off, you got to take a day off. In the regular season, you have a lot more downtime. You have off days on Tuesdays. You have a regular schedule, so you can kind of work that in. In this case, it just became apparent because he was missing a couple of days that something was going on, so he had to talk about it. We'll see if that's a factor. If he comes in and his knee is an issue, terrible trade. But here's the thing. If he comes in, if you get Devaughn Vele in this building and he is a consistent contributor for the next 3 years, which the Saints have him on a 2nd year of a 4-year contract, it's not something you find very often, at least not with a contract you want. You see a lot of rookies get traded in the 2nd year of their contract. And you have him on the cheapest contract possible because he was a 7th round pick. So I look at it as, hey, if he comes in and is a contributor for 3 years on that rookie scale deal, that's well worth a 4th round pick plus a future 7th, which I don't know. I kind of view 7th as throwaways, basically a UDFA. That's well worth that contract. I mean, look at the 4th round picks you can get. I mean, look at the 4th round picks the Saints have made, right? I mean, Jake Haener and Nick Saldiveri with 4th round picks. Like, it's not a guarantee store of value, even an early 4th round pick. I mean, Nick Saldiveri was the first pick in the 4th round, guys. So, I see it as, hey, if he comes in and is a contributor, then that's the value of that 4th round pick, and you made a good deal. If he comes in and is, I don't want to say a Pro Bowler, but is a guy that improves those numbers. So instead, you say 41 catches, 475 yards, you're looking at 60 catches for 700 yards and 5 touchdowns, or anything above that. Then that's a great trade. Now, if he comes in and does nothing and stinks it up, and you end up moving on after a year, then that's effectively the equivalent of an Antonio Gandy Golden. I keep mixing it up. And in that case, that happens in the draft all the time. So I don't know. I think people see this as a high-risk trade. I just see it as a trade. I see it as you're taking a draft pick 1 year early and you're getting a guy that fits exactly what you need and is a proven NFL player as opposed to a theoretical NFL player. So that's kind of where I am. And the idea that a rebuilding team shouldn't make this trade, I don't buy that. Because again, okay, if this rebuild takes 2 years, you still got him for another year after that. And if the age is an issue, I don't think the age will be an issue on the rookie deal, right? Like, again, his football age is like probably 2 years younger in terms of the reps and the tread on the tires, right? So if I'm not worried about this guy's age in his age 28, 29 season. I'm worried about a second contract, but you don't draft a guy in the 4th round and start thinking about a second contract. You start thinking about, can he get through this contract? But all right, that's my spiel. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear some sound from Sean Payton, from Kellen Moore, from a Broncos reporter, and kind of dive into who Devaughn Vele is. So here's some ads. All right, and we are back. We're still going to talk about Devaughn Vele. I know that was kind of a quick segment, but I wanted to kind of separate that and the long Sean Payton clip that I'm about to play you. I apologize in advance because there's some weird beeping going on, but I can't control the Broncos media and whether they have a backhoe working somewhere in the general vicinity. I mean, it's really not that much worse than Airline Drive, where every 30 seconds you have a plane flying overhead. But this is Sean Payton, and the length of this clip reminds me that Kellen Moore is a lot different than Sean Payton. I don't think I've ever heard Kellen Moore give a 3-minute answer, but here you go. This is Sean Payton talking about the trade.
Devaughn Vele, it's just kind of
Yeah, so let's go through that. Look, I asked Paul, my assistant, find out how many players I've traded or been involved in a trade with. And Devaughn was the 26th player. The interesting thing with him was 2 and then a 3rd team all called. In other words, we weren't actively shopping at all. But teams in need of receivers obviously do a good enough job. They look at the depth of certain teams. And so within like a 3-day period, George and I had gotten calls from 2 serious teams and a 3rd, and all coincidentally on the same player. And look, George would know better the initial offer or what the compensation would be. And the next morning, he and I sat down and said, no, that, obviously we value this player. And then the following day, it picked up, it became more serious. And then we're having to look at the roster as a whole and trying to find the right and the best 53. But the thing different, and I looked over those trades, those other 25, and 90% of them were easy trades to make. Meaning there wasn't the right fit for whatever reason, but there, and then there's that 10% that are difficult. This was one of those 10% that, man, all the things that we look for: discipline, structure, smart, tough, talented. That's why this one was difficult. And certainly New Orleans was looking, just talking with Mickey, they felt they were missing a bigger receiver. They knew we had a number of big receivers. And so it kind of went in the beginning of the week is just discussion, and then 2 teams really came back more than serious about this trade, and there is a point at some point where you're looking at the roster, you're looking at your depth, and towards the end, it was something we felt was going to be best for the club. He was fantastic when we visited with him. He's gonna be a real good player for them, and so those are the tough ones. And really, I was only able to come up with like 2 that were like that. Darren Sproles was a real tough decision, and I later regretted it, And so, but most of the time, they're easier, but we wish them well.
With Devaughn, if you have to trade him, how much did it mean to you to get him to a place where Mickey, the organization, that they'll do right by him because you know?
Well, that factors in Jacksonville, and ultimately, it's the best compensation. And when it became a 4 and a 7, that was, certainly something that I think George and I both knew if it became a 4, that's something we would do.
Will the turf have any?
All right, so I did think that was interesting, for a few reasons. One, I'm not gonna when Sean goes out there and says the guy reminds me of Marcus Colston. He didn't say that in that clip, but that's something he said. I kind of say like, okay, Sean, whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe in the sense that he's a 7th round pick, but like, if you really thought that guy was Marcus Colston, you wouldn't be trading him. So there's a level of gassing up that's going on in this situation. But so that I take with a grain of salt. But I do believe him when he says they weren't shopping him. All the reports are that they were not going to cut him. And that's why when Saints fans say like, we should have waited and taken him on waivers, I don't think you would have gotten him on waivers. I don't think the Broncos would have cut him. Because the Broncos did value him. Like, I believe that. Sean is a lot of things, but he's not going to go out there and just be like, like they traded the guy. He doesn't need to gas him up anymore. He's gone. There is absolutely no motivation for him to go out there and just lie to people. And so I think he's telling the truth in that there's multiple teams interested. And they kind of found throughout the process that, hey, we weren't shopping him, but we could get a decent deal for him. And we do have kind of a logjam at the wide receiver position. I don't know if he was doing the Saints a solid. It doesn't sound like he was based on the second answer there, which was like, hey, they also had the best compensation. And it sounds like there was another team willing to fork over a 4th round pick. This is Nick Underhill who reported this, but the decision kind of came down to, hey, I think the Saints are going to have a better 4th round pick, which isn't a great thing. But I guess there's, you can say, hey, one of the benefits of being bad is your picks are a little more valuable, right? One of the benefits of being in the situation the Saints are is that if you're offering a trade package and it's the exact same as another team's trade package in terms of draft picks, yours is more valuable because they're like, yeah, well, you're going to be picking at the top of the 4th round. They might be picking somewhere in the middle. So, hey, win. A win's a win, right? Like, and that's why I feel like, he's just fleecing the Saints. Maybe, but I based on everything I've seen, like I think this kid's a good player. And again, the age is something, the knee is something, but you go watch the highlights, you go watch the all-22, and it's like, this kid can play. And I don't think the Saints are in a position where they should be turning down players. Like the Broncos are in an advantageous position because they have so many wide receivers, they can just ship away a quality one and feel good. And keep in mind, like Sean talked about those trades, right? He only regrets like 5% of them, 10% of them. Well, even by those standards, like Sean is not above trading away a good player. Like think about the players Sean has traded. Like Brandon Cooks, he's back on the Saints now. He wasn't bad. They just traded him for because it didn't work. Same thing with Jimmy Graham, right? Like there's Kenny Stills even. Like there's a lot of trades that happened during the Sean Payton era that aren't because that guy was actually secretly trash and we wanted to move on. So all that is to say, I believe Sean when he says that. Moving on. We had Broncos reporter Kyle Fredrickson on the show this week with the goal of talking about the Broncos and kind of preview the preseason game, but it ended up being a good time to talk about Devaughn Vele. So this is Steve Geller and Bobby Hebert chatting with Kyle Fredrickson, who is a reporter for the Denver Gazette.
One of the guys now heading over our way. Tell us about this big body receiver. I know the Saints are in need of one. The 2 draft picks going to Denver now, a 4th and a 7th in return for Vele. What was his first season like in Denver?
It was impressive, honestly. For a guy who's a 7th round pick, he's a little bit older, being that he served a mission in Samoa after he was done with college in Utah. So, gives him a little bit more maturity than most rookies, but he ends up being 2nd on the team in receptions among wide receivers with 41 catches a year ago. So I think this whole Broncos offense, the entire unit was a surprise with how productive they were with Bo Nix a year ago. And Vele was a big piece of that. And to be honest, I didn't get the sense that the Broncos were really interested in trading him, but the return, I think, was just far too great to be able to get a 7th and a 4th round pick in next year's draft. This is a team that's still really building for the future with a lot of young talent, and they love the receivers that they have. So in Vele, going to New Orleans. My expectation is they see him as a guy who's going to contribute for day one, right? If you're going to give up 2 picks for a guy who's really, for the most part, not totally proven, it shows what they think his ceiling is. And so, yeah, certainly just to talk to as a guy, Vele was great, very personable, very mature. You mentioned being big-bodied. He's the sort of guy who thrives in the red zone, a guy who's not afraid to cross over the middle, big possession receiver, very sure hands. So the Saints have a good one. And, if it wasn't for the depth in that room that the Broncos have at receiver, I don't think they would have made that move at all.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good breakdown from Kyle, and I do think that he's on the money there. Like, okay, it seems like a significant amount to trade. Well, yes, but you expect that guy to contribute right away. So we'll see what happens. Like, I don't know if he's going to get on the field on Saturday. I bet he will. I'd like to think he will, just in the sense of like getting in a uniform and maybe running a route or two, maybe give him a package of 4 or 5 plays and just let him kind of get used to playing in the Superdome and playing with whichever quarterback is out there when he's on the field. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. And then this is Kellen Moore kind of breaking down why the Saints opted to make the trade, how they intend to use him, all that good stuff.
To give up the 2 picks for Vele, like the actual cost that you guys are okay with?
Yeah, that's always the tricky part. You identify players you really want, and then obviously there's a cost associated with it. And so, he's a younger player. This is his second year, obviously, so he's on his initial contract in the NFL. So there's some value to that associated with just from a roster management, healthy standpoint. He'll be with us. Certainly, we anticipate him being with us for a while. And so he's been a really productive player, and I think that's the rare thing to see a guy second year in the league with the production he had last year, with the big moments he had. It's not just little catches here and there. I mean, he played really tough downs for Denver, and so we feel like we're adding a really big piece that's going to contribute in a lot of ways.
Is there anything about him being 27 or 28 that either a benefit or a negative? Like, how do you view that?
I think it's a pretty neutral thing. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit older, but he's been through some football. He was ready to play last year, played phenomenal. He's not like he's an older guy. I think they're still young at that age, so we'll be fine.
Is it maybe too early to ask this question, but with him and taking over nearly 70% of his snaps from the slot last year, like, do you envision him being somebody that works both inside and out, or maybe as a big slot? Like, what's kind of the vision?
The evidence supports that he can play in and out. He's got really high capacity. I mean, for him to hop in there as a rookie and to handle, systematically, to be able to play multiple positions in Denver in that system, I think, it's a testament to how smart of a football player he is and how prepared he was. And so we feel like he'll be able to play a number of different positions, which is key for us because we want to move our other pieces. And, we'll see how it plays out once we get him on the grass and kind of get acclimated to how he best suits and fits. And I think the big part is how do we build his role as we go? Because, again, being in Philly, we got Jahan almost in the exact same situation last year. And, you got to start in a role, and then you kind of build it up. And, after a few weeks, then he's ready to roll.
Yeah, and so, I'll kind of wrap this up here. We'll move on to something else. But that's I think that kind of lays it out right there. Right. Like, the Saints aren't really concerned about the age. They feel like they're getting a good deal with the contract. They're getting a good situation with a guy who's produced in the NFL, and you'll go from there. Again, the value is what the value is. The cost is what the cost is. The need is apparent. And, I tweeted this, and I would not be surprised at all if, the Saints front office was like kind of on the fence, like, is it worth swinging the trade? Is it worth pulling the trigger on this type of move? And then they saw Spencer Rattler try to throw a slant to Mason Tipton, and it just did not go well. And yes, Mason did not run the route well, but it's also like, oh, you're calling that in a clutch moment, a critical moment there. It's like, oh, we're calling that to Mason Tipton, huh? Like, we don't got anyone else that we trust to run that little slant, little RPO action. And because even if he runs that right, he's still got to make a contested catch through contact because there's a guy driving on the ball. Like, I'm not sure I trust. Like, you watch it happen, you're like, I don't know if this was ever going to work, right? And so you're like, you know what? Let's just do it. And whether that's true or not, that's how I felt about it. Like, I watched that play out and it was like, man, like, yeah, it's on Mason and he takes the blame, but at the same time, like, that's not a route I want him running. Like, I need a guy who can go do that. Like, everyone made fun of Mike Thomas for being the slant guy, but like, you had him run slants because he's really good at running slants. You need a big guy. You need a guy who can box out. You need a guy who can make a play in a phone booth. And I think that's who the Saints think they're bringing in. So we'll have to wait and see. Either way, like I don't know. Like I get a little tired of the outrage reflex. Like every trade is bad, every decision is bad, everyone's stupid all the time. Like I don't know. I'd like to be able to see the guy play before I have a take on him. Because right now I'm an NA. Not enough information to make a decision. I'm rooting for him. I hope he's good. Because I think if you add a big-bodied wide receiver, a guy who you can trust in those situations to this offense with the playmakers you have with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, I think this team gets a lot better. I don't know how much better right away, but you got 3 years to figure that out. So we'll see. Either way, Inside Black and Gold, I'm Jeff Nowak. We're going to hit a quick break, come back. 2 more kind of shorter segments. I want to break down quarterback competition, 3 points on the preseason game, and then get the heck on out of here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Please leave a rating. Leave a review. Hit me up on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. Hit up Steve Geller at Steve Geller WWL. Follow the show at Saints_pod. Subscribe at WWL Sports on YouTube. And, leave a rating, leave a review, all that good stuff. We're going to keep this pod going throughout the season. We're kind of getting into a rhythm here. We're going to have one more live episode, then probably take a little bit of a hiatus with the team as we get into the open week. But we still got more to talk about until then, so stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak, solo, coming at you. We talked a lot about Devaughn Vele. Let's talk about the guys who are going to throw him the ball, and that's one of Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough, the former of which is going to start on Saturday against the Broncos. The caveat is when Kellen Moore was asked whether that is kind of a declaration of the starting quarterback job, he said no. That's a direct quote. No. He is keeping this as close to the vest as possible. And just for perspective, it's been a lot of this.
Is there anything to read into Spencer getting consecutive days?
We're just rotating. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a good try.
About quarterback battle boiling down this late in the training campaign into the final preseason game.
Yeah, we'll be just fine. These guys have put in a ton of work. They've invested a lot into this thing. They've done a really nice job, and they put themselves in great positions. And so, we'll let this week play itself out, and then we'll move forward.
Is this kind of how you imagined it would be coming down to the wire, or did you think some of it?
Again, I think our whole goal at the beginning was not to put a timeline on this thing. When it's ready, and we go. And so, we got patience on our side, and we'll be just fine.
Do you have to know by next week?
I think again, I think as next week shifts into the regular season, obviously we got to have a little bit more of a focus towards Arizona. That'll be starting to shift the objectives, but we'll see where we're at.
Tell us, I guess I tried to ask this yesterday. Corbin, what's the benefit? what's the benefit
of naming him? Just so you guys quit asking me questions, I guess.
Yes, Kellen said even his kids are asking him about the quarterback competition. He's giving them the same answers. So it is what it is. I do think that Spencer and Tyler are taking this in stride. Here's just a couple clips. This is Spencer talking about, he's not looking too far ahead and all that jazz.
Momentum right now. Like after the way that one finished and the way things have gone for you, over the last couple of weeks, do you feel some personal momentum going forward right now?
You know what I mean? No. I try to just stay. I try to stay just focused on what I can do, and I can't look too far ahead and think anything's gonna happen. I just got to be grateful for that opportunity. Go out there and give it my all. I'll give 110% every time. Whatever happens, happens.
That can't be real easy to do, though. Is it to not look ahead? I mean, you're battling for a starting quarterback in the NFL, and you're close. Is that possible to not worry about it?
You can't worry about it because then that'll get in the way of how you prepare, how you play. You just got to play your game and like I said, try to get your guys' trust, your teammates' trust, and be a leader out there and make good things happen.
How much do you think?
All right, and this is Tyler kind of assessing where he's at, where his growth has been.
enjoyed this competition with you, Spencer,
Mhm.
and Jake just throughout this whole process?
I've really enjoyed it. They're great dudes. It's super fun to be in the quarterback room with them and Taysom as well. I think we got a great environment with Scotty and Nuss and Kellen popping in and Coach Linehan. So it's all been really about kind of learning and growing. You know, nobody's been perfect. I think we say it all the time. We don't have a 10-year vet in the room right now, so there's going to be growing pains. And I think for me, that was that first kind of week or so, just learning how to get adjusted to things. And I think for me, it's just kind of been that steady climb of getting more comfortable and then kind of operating at that higher level. And I'm not going to be perfect. So kind of being okay with that. And I think Coach Nuss, Scotty, with Spencer and Jake, you know, similarly, it's a brand new offense, but you got to have a high standard of how, you know, we operate. That way we can give ourselves a chance.
All right, and that's where you are. So I'm going to call BS on the idea that they don't know who the quarterback is. Like, I think they are maintaining my belief here, and this is just me. I'm not reporting this. This is just my analysis of the situation, is that Spencer Rattler is the starter. And I think that that's been clear for a while now, at least since the week 2 preseason game. And it's not that Tyler can't play. It's just that I think he needs a little bit more time. The film review, I felt really good about what Tyler did in that game. I just think consistency is just a little far away from him right now. I just don't think he's there yet. And I want to give him more time to get there before I throw him into what could be a very ugly situation if things go a certain way. Right? And at the same time, I think we've seen Spencer really kind of lock in here over the past 2 weeks. You know, he had kind of a rough game against the Chargers. Wasn't great. But then I think he kind of locked in last week of practice. He played really well against the Jaguars. Obviously, that's the second team. But then he came out on Tuesday. You know, Bobby Hebert was at that practice. He said Spencer was on fire. He got the first team reps then. The next day, on Wednesday, that's the last practice we're going to get to see fully. He got the first team reps again. I don't know who got the first team reps on Thursday, but then you have Spencer starting the game. And so I think you're just seeing the picture of, yeah, you're still competing, but one guy is ahead. And I think Spencer starts. And yeah, I'd be very surprised. I'm not saying Tyler Shough can't win this job. I'd be very surprised if it happened. And my read is that the reason you're stretching this out is kind of twofold. Yes, you know, the subterfuge of making sure the Cardinals have to prepare for multiple guys. Like, I don't think the Cardinals really care. I don't think it's really going to matter that much. Even if you told them who the starting quarterback is, what are they scouting? Like, they have plenty of time to go through all these reps. Like, I don't think that you're going to see the Cardinals go out there and spend a whole ton of time making up very elaborate game plans for how they're going to stop a rookie or a second-year player in an offense they haven't seen. Like, you have an unscouted offense either way, whether it's Tyler, whether it's Spencer. So I don't know. Like, maybe that's the motivation for keeping it a secret. It definitely doesn't hurt, but I just don't think that's going to make that much of a difference. I think the reason you are dragging this out is because while you're going to play Spencer to start the season, and again, this is me saying that. They did not say this. I'm saying this. I think you're going to start Spencer, but with the understanding that there's a very high likelihood that at some point in this season, Tyler Shough has to start a football game for you. And I want to make sure that I maximize the amount of growth opportunities he has for the time that I have to give them to him. Because once the regular season comes here and you have a starter, you don't get the luxury of flipping reps. Like, one guy's the starter, he gets all the reps, right? And so by calling it a competition this late into the game, you can continue to give Tyler first team reps while saying, like, we're still trying to figure it out, even though I think you've already figured it out. All right, so that's right. And I actually don't hate it. Like, if that's what's going on, I think it's actually pretty smart. Because if you had said he's the starter, but we're still giving Tyler first team reps, that would look like you're undermining your starter. In this format, it's just like, hey, it's a healthy competition. These guys are pushing each other, whatever. That's where I'm at with it. And I feel good about it. Like, I actually think the Saints, there's a potential for the Saints to be in a good quarterback situation. And the way they get there is by making sure that both these guys are ready to go in and play at a high level when they get in the game. I like Spencer's approach. I like Tyler's approach. I think they're very mature. They're older guys. Like, that's the thing. Like, you talk about, well, Tyler's so old, right? He made a joke today that he and Vele are just old dudes getting ready to go. Like, Spencer's old too. Like, these are older, mature players that, you put them in bad situations, and I think they can handle it, right? I think they can lead that room. So that's where I'm going to be. But, I do think that Spencer would benefit greatly. And I think this is going to be something that the Saints really kind of focus on this week, or have focused on. The week's basically over, is starting fast. Like, you're going to play some starters. How many? It sounds like you're going to play a good number of those starters. So I think you'll see Spencer play with a good number of the first teamers. I hope Eric McCoy is out there. That's kind of my, I think one of the reasons the offensive line has been rough to watch is because Eric McCoy's not out there. And he's a huge part of it, right? Like, everyone plays worse when Eric's not in there. Everyone. Maybe not the defense. The offense does. They all play worse when he's not in there. Quarterbacks, the rest of the offensive line, the running backs because the offensive line isn't blocking, the wide receivers because the offensive line isn't giving the quarterback enough time to throw them the ball. Everyone looks worse. And so I'd like to see Eric get some reps. Now, I think this is very much a George Costanza game, and I think the statement that will be made is if Spencer goes in there and leads a 14-play touchdown drive to open the game, he comes out, right? It's the George Costanza effect. I'm trying to make that a thing. No one else is buying into it. But, like, that's the goal, is to have one really good drive and then to get the heck out of there. Build confidence, sustain it, right? Now, I think it'll come off as disappointing if you go out there and have another not scoreless first half. You put 3 points on the board in both first halves, but, like, you really want to just have one nice touchdown drive and then get everyone the heck out of there, right? Or at least the majority of them. Now, I don't think you'll see Talifuaga. He's dealing with a kind of a minor knee issue. Sounds like he did something to it on Thursday. Kellen downplayed it. Anytime you're dealing with a knee issue as a big dude, like, that's an issue, and, like, you got to watch it. But doesn't sound like it's going to be anything. And I've seen Tally play through some stuff before, so he's a tough guy. Like, I don't think it's going to be anything to watch. But it kind of sounds like, hey, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, Brandon Cooks, I think these guys are going to be out there. I think these guys are going to be playing. And, Tyler Shough got his chance with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Now I think it'll be Spencer's turn. But that's kind of where I'm at. Like, we're going to go into this. We're going to talk about it as a competition. I don't really see it as a competition anymore. I think it is a competition only in the sense that by keeping it a competition, you can continue to get the rookie quarterback reps because you expect to play him at some point this season. And that's my take. And we'll see how it goes. And at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter. I sent in my record prediction for the season, and it pains me. I'm an optimist. I like to expect good things. Even when good things aren't likely to happen, I like to expect them. I'm the guy who's been saying 9-8, 10-7 over the last couple of years, even though it's been, all this negativity. And this year, I can't be that way. I sent in 4-13. And I would love nothing more than to be wrong. But that's my record prediction, is 4-13 after watching camp. I've watched enough 4-win Giants team to know what a 4-win team looks like. But I will say that even if that's the case, the quarterback position is such an important part of a 4-win season with positivity, or a 4-win season where all hope is lost, right? Because if you come out of this season, even after 4 wins, and you feel like, hey, we have a quarterback we can build around, we have the right defense that we're transitioning to, and we still need a couple more pieces, and you have some kind of key pieces on offense around the quarterback, and you can continue adding to, right? Then you look at it and say, I like the coach, I like the systems, I like the quarterback. Now let's figure this thing out. Let's get enough talent in the room that we can contend, and you go from there. But we'll find out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Spencer's not the guy. Maybe they've been doing this maybe they've been stretching it out this whole time just so they can wait for Tyler Shough to do something that will constitute winning the job. I know that's a theory that's out there, but we'll have to wait and see. Either way, inside black and gold, hitting another break, coming back, 3 points. 3 points on the preseason game. Stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. I am Jeff Nowak. coming at you solo. One more quick segment, just 3 things about the upcoming preseason game that I'm interested to talk about. This is going to be a shorter segment because, I don't know, I'm tired. I'm tired. We got through training camp. Training camp is over. This is the final vestige of the preseason. And then we've got real football games to talk about. And I'm very excited about that. Like every year we get into training camp and it's exciting for like 2 weeks. And then it's like, oh, we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Then we get into the first preseason game. And it's like, man, this is exciting for about 20 minutes. And then he's like, oh, we're doing that. Okay. And then the next week's another preseason game. Oh, okay. And then we're here. Like, one of the best changes the NFL made was get rid of that 4th preseason game and giving everyone a week off. And I appreciate that. Because I just like, you get out there for the preseason, and all it does is that 3rd game is just remind you, like, the real game is so close. And I'm so excited for it, but this isn't it. This ain't it. But either way, like, there's still stuff to watch. And there's players who are fighting for their lives. And that's why it's kind of a weird situation. Because as you lose interest, these players are like fighting for their professional lives. And the coaches have to track it. You know, like I wonder how many fans who started watching that game even were there for the actually exciting part of that game last week when Jonas Sanker took the interception and whatnot. But, you know, okay, so 3 points, which the first point is, who are the running backs, right? Devin Neal was back to practice this week. It looks like Devin Neal is going to get out there. We have seen some reports that the Saints are kind of active in the running back market. They're making calls. And what I'll say about that is I think that the Saints get lumped in these reports because the Saints are always making calls. Whether they feel the need to go make a move at running back or not, like it's the same reason. Like if you go to any draft, the morning of any draft, and they'd be like, oh, these are the teams that are making calls trying to move up. Just because they're always making calls. That's just what they do. Now, sometimes trades do happen. Sometimes they don't. I do not anticipate the Saints make a running back trade. Because the question to me is not, do they have enough pieces? The question to me is who they keep. Because I like a lot of these running backs. I think they like a lot of these running backs. Clyde, I thought, had juice last week. I was impressed with Clyde. Do you cut a guy like Devin Neal to make room for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Do you keep a guy like Velus Jones around? Like, to me, that is the biggest competition still going on, is who's making this roster, right? Like, you can kind of rule Marcus Yarns out. No disrespect to Marcus Yarns. I just don't think he's up there with those other guys. Cam Akers, I kind of put at the bottom of that. And so the question is, to me, Devin Neal, Clyde, Velus Jones. I think you're keeping Alvin. I think Kendre Miller is safe as the RB2. And then it's like, okay, Devin, if he hadn't gotten hurt, I would feel very confident that he's going to stick around, but he just hasn't done a lot. He's not hurt enough to go on IR. So you got to either keep him on the roster or cut him and try to sneak him to the practice squad. So I don't know. Like, I think if Devin goes out and does something in this game, he solidifies a roster spot. And if he doesn't, he may still have a roster spot too, but it would really help for him to go out and do something. I'd also like to see Clyde do something. But to me, it's those 4 running backs. You're going to keep 4. And it's just a question of which 4 they are. Next point. Cornerbacks. Now, one thing we didn't talk about in the Devaughn Vele part of this whole thing, the Saints traded a 4th-round pick. Is that because they're projected to get a 4th-round comp pick back for Paulson Adebo, leaving the nest and going over to the Giants and signing a big contract? Maybe. But there's a big caveat there, which is Ike Yaddle. Now, currently, as we sit here, and as Ike is projected to get about 25% of the snaps, he is not a compensatory free agent. And so the Saints get that pick. Now, if Ike plays something like 30 to 35% of the snaps this year, he's most likely, now it's not guaranteed, but he's most likely going to rise up that list and qualify as a compensatory free agent, which would knock off that 4th-round draft pick. Because it's not about like the evening out the value. It's 3 compensatory free agents gone, 3 in, cancels out. So even though the value doesn't make sense, that's where you are. As I sit here today, the threshold is contract number 685. Ike is about 696. So it's not that far. Doesn't have that far to go. So the question's going to be, you're not going to make your starting cornerback decision based on like, oh, well, we might get a comp pick if we play the rookie over the veteran. But say you get to the quarter pole of the season and you're 0-4, 0-5. At that point, it would probably make more sense to play the rookie anyway in Quincy Riley. So all of this is to say, I don't know if this is necessarily a competition to start the season. I think Ike's going to start the season at that outside corner spot. Well, one of these corners look good enough that you could say like, a month into the season, let's move on. Let's sit down Ike, or maybe trade Ike, maybe do something with Ike, because a fourth round pick, how much value do you have in Ike? Right now, if you don't feel like you can play these guys, that's one thing. Right? If you feel like they can play and you're still playing Ike just because you signed him in sacrificing a fourth round pick, I don't know. So what I want to see is these young cornerbacks step up and look like they can play. Final point. And it's actually about a guy who makes 3 points. It's Charlie Smith. Charlie Smith. Now, I don't think the kicker competition has been long over, but I have been very happy with what I've seen from Charlie, and I just want to keep calling it out. Like, the kid has a monster leg, and it's remarkable. And if it wasn't for one of the worst starts to camp I've ever seen for a kicker, this was going to be a real competition. Now, Blake Grupe, I think, the final numbers, if you include the preseason, something like 39 of 40 in camp. You're talking like 98%. See, he wasn't getting beat regardless. But, like, we came into this season thinking, like, hey, this might be a legit competition. Someone might lose this job. Blake might lose this job to the kid. He missed so many kicks inside 40. That's not even a conversation. But over the last 3 weeks, he's really settled in. He only missed one kick, I think, out in Irvine. He's made all 3 of his preseason game kicks. And yesterday, or Wednesday, I should say, to close out practice, he made a 58-yarder in a simulated scenario, but it was kind of a game-winning scenario kick. And he made it from 58 yards out. And I tell you, like, a lot of times you see guys make it from 58 and it kind of just limps over, like it doesn't hit the net. This dude, it's hitting the net like 3/4 of the way up. It's crazy. And like, I think he's an NFL kicker. And so we'll see. And at this point, it's like, you could stash him on the practice squad. I don't think you hide him. I think you feel like, hey, Blake's not losing that job. Like, Blake Grupe is your long-term kicker. So let him go out there and showcase something. If a team wants to come in and take him, let a team come in and take him. I don't think that hiding him is fair to him. If you get in a situation where you can let him kick a long field goal, let him kick a long field goal. Someone's going to come in and take him, they're going to come in and take him. Hiding him on the practice squad just because you don't want to lose him, I don't think is fair to him. So I'm hopeful that he gets another chance to showcase his leg because he deserves it. And here's the thing, like, let Blake sit and just let him go out there. And if he can make all of his kicks, great. If no one comes in and claims him, fantastic. Throw him on the practice squad, but don't hide him just to keep him on your practice squad. I don't think that's fair to him. And we'll see how it goes. But that's not a very compelling point, but that's my final point. There's a lot of guys competing for roster spots. The Isaiah Stallbirds of the world, the Chris Rumps of the world, the Isaiah Foskis of the world even. There's going to be some interesting stuff, but we'll explain that to you afterward. Don't feel obligated to watch all the way to the fourth quarter as Sean does some real mean stuff. I do expect, talk about Charlie Smith and specialists. I think we're going to see at least one fake. I think Darren Rizzi's going to do something weird. That's my prediction for this game. But all right, that's it. Again, Jeff Nowak. This is Inside Black and Gold. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be coming at you after the game. I can't decide whether we're going to do it on Sunday. Doing a live stream on Sunday feels kind of weird, but we'll check in with Steve and figure out what our schedule is. Until then, thanks, everyone, for watching. As always, please make sure to subscribe. Always appreciate y'all. We'll keep at it. Who dat? Go Saints. Peace, y'all. Peace.